الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. From Abadu, my brothers and sisters, we were talking about arranged marriages last time, and I just want to round off that topic. Arranged marriages as a convenience makes sense because it saves both the spouses from having to do their hunting alone. And if you have family, if you have friends who know you well and who can suggest to you somebody who they think might be compatible, then it is something which is good, alhamdulillah. Nothing wrong. But please be very clear in your mind. The decision to marry or not to marry is yours and has to be yours, and there can be no doubt about this. If you decide to accept whatever recommendation was done, and then if things go wrong and you want to blame the person who recommended, then you are insane. That's absolutely out of the question. That person is not responsible. Whoever recommended the person to you, their responsibility ends with the recommendation. They actually did you a favor by recommending somebody. To check out that person, to talk to that person, to ask all the questions you need to ask, to satisfy yourself that yes, indeed, to the extent possible that I can that is available to me, to that extent I am sure that I want to marry this person. That decision always has to be yours, and this is what Islam teaches us. So insist on meeting the person face to face. Insist on talking to them face to face. The women, if you are somebody who wears a niqab, you are required to take off the niqab so that your prospective husband can see your face and you can talk to him and he can talk to you face to face, looking at each other's faces. There are two situations where a woman who is wearing a niqab is required to take it off. One is in this situation where she is speaking to a prospective groom, to a prospective husband, and the second one is if she is in a court of law and she is giving evidence, she is required to take off her face covering for the judge to see her face, because facial expressions form part of the evidence process. So please understand the law. The law is meant for our benefit. For the man, if the woman refuses to take off her niqab, you are perfectly within your rights, and I think that would be the sensible thing to do, is to say Assalamu alaikum, jazakumullahu khairan, and go home. Khalas. You do not want to marry somebody whose face you have not seen. The reason I'm saying is that because in our Hyderabadi culture, among the many non-Muslim, many un-Islamic, not non-Muslim, any un-Islamic customs, is the custom of what is called jalwa. And this jalwa is an arranged marriage in which the two spouses have never seen each other, never spoke to each other. The Arab marriage was arranged by the parents of both sides, and the first time they see each other is in a mirror after the nikah is over. That night before the bride goes to the husband's house, they look at each other's faces. The mirror is kept like this and they look at each other's faces. To me, all that proves is the complete insanity of both people. Please, total nonsense and completely un-Islamic. So don't let anyone force you into it. Second thing is, please understand very clearly that in Islam, the decision to marry rests 100% with the two spouses only. Nobody, including the father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, brother, sister, whoever of either of the spouses, the man or the woman, nobody has any right to force their relative, to force their sister, their daughter, their granddaughter to marry somebody who they have chosen for her. Absolutely zero right. They can recommend, that's it. They cannot force. No matter how much you think that person is suitable, they cannot force you to marry. And so if you marry, don't ever go back to somebody and say, my father forced me. Your father did not force you. Your father tried to force you and you succumbed, and now you have to bear the brunt of it. Please don't do that to yourself. You have the right before Allah to say no, and say no. Say no very clearly. Right? And no father I know will tie you hand and foot and drag you in chains to get married. So please, you are an adult And if you cannot take that decision on your own, then you are unfit to be married. Please stay home, stay alone. Don't ruin somebody else's life. Right? Be by yourself. Now, the reason I'm saying this arranging of marriages is a good thing because it helps you, right? So also this applies also to the marriage bureaus and marriage websites and so on. No matter, just treat that as an introductory point. Once you are introduced, every single decision has to be yours, which you must consciously take. Right? So please be very, very clear. One benefit is that if your own people choose somebody for you, then the likelihood is that that somebody will be from a similar background and so on and so forth. So the amount of or the number of adjustments you will need to make in your marriage will be to that extent less. And that is always good. The more adjusting you have to do, the more complicated it becomes. But be very, very clear in your mind that decision has to be yours. This includes, for example, if you are in a joint family, the spouse has to live with your family, whatnot, whatever. Ask every single question that you need to ask. Don't hold anything back, right? Now, beyond this, it is not productive and it is completely harmful for parents and family to get involved in arranging marriages. Putting pressure on children to marry this one or that one is truly idiotic, which you will invariably discover most painfully later to everyone's detriment and grief. So introducing is a good idea because in the screening leading to the introduction, you, the parents, can satisfy yourself about the background, culture, and more importantly, the deen. But after that, stay out of the way. And if your daughter or son say, no, I don't like this person, don't even ask why, right? Maybe just as an inquiry, but other than that, do not put any pressure whatsoever. It's essential to leave the prospective couple alone to make up their own minds, no matter how much the backgrounds match, no matter that his or her parents are your childhood friends. The fact of the matter is that these two are individuals in their own right, with their own likes and dislikes, and they need to make up their own mind and take ownership for their decision. I have seen marriages between first cousins, which we are permitted to do in Islam. First cousins from a joint family. Literally, they lived in the same house. They grew up in the same house. The parents of each of them are related by blood. They are blood brothers and sisters. Right? Despite that, I have seen those marriages going bad and going some royally bad, really, really. And you might say, well, what more similarity can there be in terms of background, in terms of culture, in terms of every single thing than with a first cousin? In Islam, we are permitted to marry first cousins. I don't think it's a great idea, but you are allowed to do that because genetically sometimes it creates problems later on with children and whatnot. So it's better to marry somebody who's not so closely related. But I'm just saying that if you think that, background, but this one is my childhood friend, makes no difference. These two are individuals. Leave them alone. Let them make up their own minds. Don't put pressure on them. If they are not going to take ownership for their decisions, then you are headed for disaster. If you interfere in your own anxiety about this great match, then you will eventually and you will actually impede this whole process of them taking ownership. They will not take ownership. Obedient sons or daughters who in true Bollywood style say to their parents, I will marry whomever you choose, are giving you signs of early dementia. Get them checked out. Take them to a psychiatrist and say something is wrong with this one's head. Please check them out. Right? Send them back to the nursery to grow up until they can learn to make up their own minds about what is perhaps the most important decision that they will ever take in their lives. Please. If you don't do this, then be prepared for the same obedient son to remind you that you are responsible for the disaster that they are now presenting you with, which is divorce papers. The same obedient one will say, you did this to me. Don't fall into that trap, please. If that obedient son or daughter tells you, I will marry whoever you want me to marry, present them with a packet of diapers. Tell them this is what you need. Right? Go and put on diapers, go and lie down in the nursery, and we'll send you a bottle of milk. Because you are not fit to be married. My brothers and sisters, in my view, anyone who is not prepared to decide who they want to marry and to take responsibility for that decision is not ready to get married. As simple as that. Let them wait until they are ready instead of running and ruining someone else's life with their confusion. Now, eighth question. We are following the whole list of questions which people ask me. How does one make compromises? That was the question. Now, my answer to that is, they are not called compromises. They are called adjustments. It is not semantics, but attitudes that language indicates and dictates. We make compromises when we are forced to do so. Nobody loves a compromise because you do it when you have no other choice. So you accept it because you are stuck with it, but you will never have any good feeling about it. You don't want that in your marriage. We make adjustments to things so that we can enjoy them more. One of the things that most young couples don't bargain for is the aspects of sharing ownership, time and privacy that marriage brings with it. Right? Now, nobody told them about it, and they didn't think about it when they had stars in their eyes. Honeymoons are in hotels, and sharing a hotel room is different from sharing your own bedroom and your own cupboard. Changing from I to we is a very difficult process. Small things can become the cause of friction, sometimes degenerating to serious conflicts. For example, for those of you who know MBTI, this is a TF kind of thing, where, for example, some people, they are so systematic that in their cover, and believe me, it has nothing to do with male and female, right? Nothing to do with male and female. Some people are so systematic that they will put everything in their cupboard in an exact way. The shirts will be in one place, the trousers will be in another place, the jubbas, the topis, the turbans, and depending on what you wear, right? Or your underclothing, and then underclothing, the vest will be in one place, and the shorts, and whatever the whole thing is, your closet will be organized. It will look like a museum piece. For some other person, that closet will look like something which a hurricane hit the previous night. And the only way everything is in that closet, the moment you open it, everything falls down. Now, the point is that this can be the source of a huge amount of friction. Why can't you arrange your clothes? Why can't you do this? Why must I do it? All of this. That is why it is very important to adjust and to give each other space. When I got married, my wife, in the first few weeks, she said this to me in so many words. She said, everything you refer to, you say I and mine. My car, my house, my cupboard, my room, my this. I got married when I was 30. So I had lived for 30 years alone, and I was very happy living alone. There was no problem with that. Unlike many of the young people today, I was not dying to get married. I was not running around hunting for a wife. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me a beautiful wife, and we have now been married for 36 years. But she told me in the first couple of weeks, she said, everything you refer to like this, she said, where do I come in? And it hit me like a shock. I said, wow, fantastic. No one ever told me that. So then we divided up. We said, okay, here is this part of the cupboard is yours, this is mine, and I will keep my mouth shut, and you keep yours shut, right? Another big issue becomes finances. Many times people come and say, and I'm talking about people, there are people who have come to me, people in their 60s, people close to 70. The wife comes to me and says, my husband gives me 1,000 rupees per month for my expenses. What do you get in 1,000 rupees per month? You won't even get cat food in that money. I'll tell you what I did. I did that very early in my life. Soon after we got married. I took my bank book, I handed it over to my wife and said, this is the bank account. This is our account. This is a joint account, but you are welcome to have your own account if you like, because in Islam we do not have joint accounts. It's better to have two separate accounts, because inheritance for the children, if there are any children and others, inheritance from you and inheritance from your wife are two different sets of inheritance. If there is a joint account, then until both of them are dead, they cannot inherit, which is injustice for them. So you must separate your properties, separate your bank accounts. Also in Islam, the woman is permitted to have her own money. She doesn't have to account for it. She doesn't have to tell you, the husband, about it. She can earn it. She can spend it where she wants without any problem. You, on the other hand, you can earn. You don't have to tell her, but you are responsible for her upkeep. Now, upkeep, remember this, it's not money you are giving her to buy potatoes. That is your household expense money, the money that you need to run the house. Upkeep refers to money that is given to her for her own use, which she can use wherever she wants. She can do whatever she wants with it without reference to you. She doesn't have to ask your permission for what to do with that money. And she can give it to her parents, she can send it home, she can, buy whatever she likes with it, right? Now, or she can save it. It's entirely up to her. But once you've given that money to her, that's hers. No questions asked. What I did, and this is what I recommend to everybody. Sit down with your wife, and husband and wife, both of you, whether one is earning, whether both are earning. Remember, for her to work is not necessary. Islamically, she is not required to work. She is permitted if she wants to. And if the children are there and the demands of the children are not such that they will interfere with the upbringing of the children, she is welcome. She can work from home. She can go out to work. No problem. But she doesn't have to do that. Upkeep of the family is your job. Is the job of the husband. 100%. 100%. Even if she is earning $1 million a year, even if she is earning $100 million a year, still responsibility of running the house is yours. So now, best thing to do is sit down, have an adult-to-adult conversation and say, this is my money, this is how much I earn. Here is the bank book. Here is, the checkbook. I got my wife to be also a signatory, not a co-signatory, also a signatory, meaning that she could sign the checks and empty the account if she wants to. And I said, this is what we have. Make a budget to run the house. Use the money. Whatever you need and whatever you want for yourself, most welcome. Here is the account. End of story. That day to this day, I don't go to the bank. I don't touch. I don't even know what there is in the bank. And I believe I am very happy for that reason. Alhamdulillah. And I told her, if you spend all the money, then we fast for the rest of the month. Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us reward. Right? Please treat your husband and treat your wife as if they are intelligent people. One hopes they are. And if they are not, then they will become, inshallah. But if you treat the wife, usually this is the husband's issue, because the husbands treat their wives as if they are, unpaid servants. May Allah protect us. So she does all the work of the house, and the house is clean and this and that, and whether you have servants, so she does it herself or whatever. Gives you hot food and blah blah, whatnot. All your needs are satisfied. And when it comes to giving her some spending money, you become stingy. How shameful is that? How shameful is that? And you think if you give her access to the bank account, she'll spend anything. She'll spend everything. You think she's insane? I mean, did you marry a mad woman or what? Why will anyone, really seriously ask this question to yourself, why will any woman spend all the money? If she spends all the money, does she not know that then there is no money to pay the bills and there is no money to buy food and so on and so forth? Do you think she's insane? Really, I mean, sometimes when people come to me with these things, I ask them this direct question to them: did you marry a mad woman? How do you mean she doesn't know? Teach her. Trust, man. If you don't even have trust between the husband and the wife, believe me, you are not even walking on thin ice. You're trying to walk on water. You will sink and drown. On a side note, people ask me this question. My husband's phone, he does not give me the password. Why do you need a password? Why are you interested in that phone? Why do you need to go in there? To do what? My wife's phone has no password. My phone has no password. She is welcome to see all my messages, and her phone is there if I want to read all of them. I never do. And she never does either. My point is, if you do not even trust your husband or wife to that extent, that you are living in this with a suspicious kind of mind, I don't know who he's talking to, I don't know what he's doing, you don't have a marriage. You do not have a marriage. It's better for you to take a divorce and go home. Suspicion is the worst thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that. La tajassasu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, do not be suspicious. Do not spy. You want to be a spy, go join the CIA. It's not a marriage thing to do. Seriously ask yourself, if you do not have trust, what marriage is that? Trust each other. Talk to each other. Have conversation. Sit down. Be nice to each other. Share your thoughts. Share your ideas. Take decisions collectively, as is the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Take decisions by a process of shura. Make mashwara to be with each other. My brothers and sisters, some people are neat and orderly by nature. To others, any form of order is an attack on their freedom and their individuality and their free spirit. Some people are early risers and early sleepers. Others like to stay up late and they wake up late when the sun is well in the sky. Some eat breakfast, others don't. Some are more stylish and fashion conscious than others. Others carry what the dog left on the doorstep look as a mark of their individuality, much to the disgust of their spouse. Some people like surprises, some hate surprises. Some like to take decisions, even bad ones. Others like to leave options open for as long as they can get away with them. For some, the idea of relaxation is to be alone or with the one they love, all by themselves, sitting often in companionable silence. For others, relaxation is to have at least 5 other people in the fray while managing 2 others on the phone. Some people love parties, especially where they are likely to meet new people. Others hate parties, especially where they are likely to meet new people. Some focus on the rules and regulations and the systems of things. Others see the same things in terms of feelings and emotions. All this would have been fine if the difference was merely different, but it isn't. It is seen as the right way, meaning my way, and the wrong way, meaning any other way. And this conditioning is universal, culturally universal and ingrained. We all have it. The key is to be aware of it and not allow it to trap us into destroying our relationship. Many of these are temperament traits which those who are familiar with Myers-Briggs will recognize. Irrespective of your familiarity with the MBTI, with Myers-Briggs type indicator, with the theory, I'm sure you will recognize yourselves, your spouses, your family, your friends in these descriptions. The question is, what should you do about the fact that you may discover after marrying someone that you married someone very different from yourself? Now, we seem to know instinctively that differences mean problems. And so we unconsciously play down our differences before marriage. We try to be very accommodative, forgiving, and adjust to almost anything. And we agree to almost anything because we are taken up with the physical appearance of the person. Unfortunately, this lasts all of 2 weeks into the marriage. Then the reality of the difference kicks in. And kick in is the right way to describe it. The difference in a marriage is far from intellectual. It is real, in the face, with you every day. You have to deal with it or it will create trouble. It's interesting to note that in many cases people actually marry others because the different temperament seems so attractive from the outside. For the one who leaves things open as long as they can, the strong, decisive nature of the spouse is the essence of manhood. For the one who is sedate, orderly, and structured, the spontaneous, effervescent spirit of the spouse is like a breath of fresh air. Sadly, in both and all similar cases, this does not last long. Then the difference becomes a source of irritation and aggravation and conflict. Happily, there is a solution, and that is to understand difference to be difference and to consciously refuse to see it as good and bad. But remember, it's not easy. You have to continuously tell yourself. And when you are doing that, it is painful. But if you don't do that, the result is even more painful. And to say this, and then to ensure that you do not criticize your spouse's different way of being or doing, as long as it is not illegal or immoral or likely to drag your good name in the mud. I always tell people, as long as he or she is not going against the Sharia, is not going against Allah's law, leave them alone. Let them eat, sleep, drink, eat, whatnot, anything let them do, as long as it is not going against the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep that as the framework. If the spouse doesn't pray, then tell them. Make them. Do whatever you need to do. If they are going to, if sleeping late means that they will miss salah, no, not possible. Dump a bucket of water on their head. But if it means that you have to eat breakfast alone, eat it alone. Don't insist to say that, oh, you have to come here and sit here and make my breakfast or sit and eat with me or sit and watch me eat. No. So as long as that difference will not land you or him or her in jail or in trouble with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, leave it alone. Let them live the way they like to live. Learn to ignore and learn not to engage or comment on anything or react to anything. Having said that, decide on what is important to you. And that's why I say talk. The talk you have with your spouse before marriage is the single most important time that you will spend with them. So ask everything. Don't make compromises on issues of principle. Explain to your spouse why you won't compromise, and wise partners will respect that. But issues which are important to the other and which you can live with changing, change. Remember the point about concern for the other. It is good to remember that everything is not a test of your masculinity or femininity, but giving in is something, by giving in you don't lose face, you win hearts. So do it unless it is something that goes against your fundamental values. At this point, let me remind you that marrying someone with a different aqidah, different religious perspective or religion, is almost always a recipe for disaster, except for people who are not committed to their own religion. In any case, in Islam, a Muslim woman is not permitted to marry anyone other than a Muslim. She cannot marry anyone other than a Muslim. A Muslim man is permitted to marry a Christian or Jewish woman without her changing her religion, but it's an extremely bad idea to do that, because the differences are huge and there's no point in making her miserable and making yourself miserable in the process. The same applies as far as between Muslims, the marriage between Shia and Sunni. Is it legally valid? Yes, it is legally valid. Is it a good idea? No, it's a very bad idea. Similarly, people who are, for example, Barelvi, who have a different perspective on dargahs, on graves, on saints, and what they do and what they don't do. If you are not from the same framework and same frame of mind, stay far away. Don't say, no, but see, I want to bring them to Tawheed, so I will marry them and change them. That's the worst thing in the world. To marry somebody with the idea that you will change them is a sign of your own stupidity, nothing more and nothing else. Please, stop changing people. If you can't live with it, don't even get into it. It's as simple as that, right? So, if you are committed to your faith, then ensure that you marry someone who is equally committed and has the same perspective about faith as you do. And that's why it's a very good idea to ask some frank questions, have a very frank sharing of thoughts on what is important to you. When this is happening, simply listen. Don't argue, don't justify, don't disagree, nothing. Don't try to convince. Just listen respectfully and then decide what you love, what you can live with, what you can change in yourself, and what you need to talk to the other person about. Most couples in their courtship stage are too busy on appearing their best, and they get into a pretense mode that has no relation to what they are really like. Acting cannot be sustained, as the mask comes off sooner than later with predictable results. So speak to each other frankly and then decide if you want to get married. During this conversation, speak clearly and tell them what are the non-negotiables for you. Don't try to be politically correct or polite or whatever and hide or play down things that you really feel strongly about. Maybe it's something to do with practicing your religious beliefs, or about family values, or that your mom will live with you, or that the cat shares your bed, or whatever. No matter what it is, if it's important, then say it. That is far more positive and less painful than having your spouse discover it later, which can destroy your marriage. Some things may seem silly to you, but if they are important enough for the other person, then they will cause you serious trouble if you don't respect them. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to do the best that we can as far as these things are concerned, and to be pleased with you and to be pleased with your marriages. I ask Allah to fill your marriages with khair and barakah, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you beautiful spouses, not just beautiful to look at, but beautiful spouses in every way. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then help you to make that marriage a means of khair and barakah for you in your whole life. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika arhamar rahimin. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.